I don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fight bears in the forest.
Welcome to another episode of Bitch vs. Bear with your hosts, Amber,
Me.
and me, Sydney. Woohoo! We are co-owners of Shield Main Training Co., and this is a show where we bitch, laugh, and shout about all things fitness and wellness related to women in the LGBTQIA+ community.
Sure is.
What are we talking about today, Amber?
Today, we are talking about how to approach that tricky topic brought up by mothers and nosy strangers everywhere. Why don't you have or want kids?
Yes.
Also surprised that it has taken us over a year to tackle this topic.
Well, we're branching out a little bit.
We are.
This year. We're branching out because, we recognize that health and wellness doesn't just have to do with what you're doing in the gym or what you're putting in your body, that there's elements in everyday life that people may not consider how they impact their health and wellness.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that this one is a good topic because it's something that a lot of women face, a lot of men face. Like, I think it's kind of universal.
It is, yeah. And we have covered parenthood.
We have covered parenthood, and we learned a lot. I learned a lot.
It was great. It's a fun time.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. So, yeah, I think it's
I'm excited.
I'm excited. Okay, so really, not having children is actually nothing new in society. So I think that's where we have to start. Well, let's just, because
Shocker.
I think people do have the impression that like society has always deemed that like you have to have kids.
Yeah.
But I kind of always wondered like where that default came from of like having children is like the thing you do.
Right. Yeah.
And so I kind of thought that being child-free was like a modern decision.
Yeah. It always kind of feels that way.
Yeah, like we're breaking ground here.
Are we not breaking ground?
We're not actually breaking ground.
Aw. Okay.
It's actually more common throughout history than I had previously understood.
Huh. Okay.
So 1 in 5 American women born between 1885 and 1915 never had children.
Good for them.
Yeah. In pre-revolutionary France, 15 to 20% of the adult population remained single and without children.
Yes. You go, Spencers.
Yeah.
Hashtag goals.
So, and now a growing share of adults don't expect to ever have children.
Mhm.
And while some of us give reasons like finances, climate change, some just, it's simply, they just don't want to.
Yeah.
So really, this episode is going to be for those exploring the choice to be child-free and for those of us who have made that decision to be child-free, and how we can respond to that question. So why don't you want kids?
Because we don't want to. End of episode.
No,
Just kidding.
we're going to dive a little more into it.
You would think that should be the end.
You would think, but sometimes
No,
it seems
no.
people just can't leave it there.
Okay, so unless you've been living under a rock for the last 4 years, you've probably heard about millennials and Gen Z having fewer children and or being childless. There have been news articles about how we aren't having enough kids to sustain America's population. Boo fucking who. You can't take care of the people that are already here anyways. Add that to the list of things that we have already ruined. We are being blamed for everything.
Yep. What are some of the things we've ruined, Amber?
We have ruined napkins. They're a waste anyways. Bar soap, which seems weird to me because I use bar soap. Cereal,
Because it's a dessert.
which I also have in my cabinet. Beer brands like Budweiser, Coors, and Miller. I say it's their own fault for making tasteless beer and they deserve it.
I want to throw a little side note in here.
Yes, please.
I love for a while that the symbol of millennial decadence was a piece of cooked bread and a single fruit. Like, rip avocado toast.
I'm sorry. Yes, avocados are a decadence, but that's only because the cost of living has skyrocketed, and guess whose pay hasn't gone with it?
I just love that, like, that was like our
Because we
epitome.
are having a delicious breakfast. We have ruined everything.
We have ruined everything.
Okay. Anyways, end of millennial rant. There are a multitude of factors for why people are choosing not to have kids. Some simply do not want the responsibility of being a parent. Same. People are increasingly valuing personal fulfillment and self-discovery.
Yay!
Good for us. Finding meaning and satisfaction in pursuing personal interests, hobbies, and relationships without the responsibility associated with parenthood. Realizing that sacrificing your own needs to fulfill your duty as a parent would be especially taxing. For some, the thought of raising a child while preserving their mental health seems nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. Like, if you're out there and you're like, I can barely keep it together for
For me and my dog.
for me and my dog, why would I want to consider bringing a solely dependent little human into this world? Yeah.
No, thank you.
So I get it. Again, this is for the people who are exploring or who have decided not to have kids.
Yes. And if you have chosen to have kids, great.
This is great.
Great for
This
you.
might give you a perspective on why some of your friends, family, people in your social circles have made the choice not to.
Yeah. Both choices are very valid. We
They
are all
are.
about choices.
We are. So one of the other reasons is the lack of support.
Yeah.
The U.S.
Ugh.
doesn't treat mothers very well. I don't know if you've looked into the lack of family-friendly policies that the U.S. has, like no national paid parental leave program. We have no national parental leave program. Then there's the high cost of raising a child, housing, education, childcare, and healthcare. All of those play really big roles in the decision to remain child-free.
It's incredible. The cost of having a child in your life
Yeah, it is.
that you are financially responsible for.
It is really, really hard.
Did you send me the reel about the guy, or maybe I just saw it? I don't know. One of the like finance guru old white men was like doing his little podcast, and somebody called and was like, I am really struggling. Like, this family was bringing in over $100,000 a year, but we're still struggling. And he was like, I'm spending $25,000 a year on childcare. And this guy was like, I don't understand how you can be paying that.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, this dude was so out of touch.
And then somebody stitched in like, well, because we have no national parental leave and
Yeah.
we have
There's
like,
no support. This
there's
dude
no-
was like, go find free summer camps. And we're like, when was the last time a summer camp was actually free?
Yeah.
That wasn't like through the church that you're a member of and already giving money to.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it makes me so angry.
the lack of support is a huge factor for a lot of people.
Yes. Then there's environmental concerns. Climate change and its potentially severe consequences for future generations are influencing the decision to forego parenthood. Like, yeah, many of us are worried about the world our children will inherit, and couple that with environmental degradation, the impact of human activities on ecosystems, the loss of biodiversity, deforestation, and overpopulation. All of this adds to major concern.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, it's wild.
Okay. So for whatever reason you have decided to hashtag have a kid free zone,
Yes.
they are valid. And you're not alone.
No, we're here.
We're
with you.
We exist. However, that decision when you make that decision, the question of why you made that decision will be challenged by other people.
Yeah.
I had an idea recently
Oh, no.
for a new spin-off of The Walking Dead.
Oh, no.
So, I think how we do it is there will be us, the child-free We're the living.
Okay,
We're the living in the Walking Dead scenario, and everyone else are the zombies, and they're trying to turn us. Like everyone who has a kid is the ones trying to turn us.
I mean, it does feel like that sometimes.
Sometimes it does, and I don't think it's intentional by a lot of people.
It's sometimes intentional by
But
some people.
sometimes there is a lot of pressure put on us to like procreate, and it just comes from a lot of different
It does.
directions. I would say, again, generalizing, not everyone who has a kid is like, hey, these are the greatest things in the world. Here, don't you want one? But I will say that there are generational differences. If you're listening to the podcast, you know what we're talking about. There's when you go home at the holidays and you have a partner and your parents ask you, so when are you having kids? Or why haven't you given me a grandchild yet?
Oh.
Like those kinds of things. That's what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
it definitely comes from different areas.
And I think it's, and I may be deviating here. Maybe you
No,
put
go
it
for
in
it.
later.
Go for it.
I think one of my biggest issues with this topic is that, and I if you've listened, you know that we're both avidly child free, and intend to remain that way. The issue I have with this as a child free person who has always very openly been child free is the double standard, right? My decision is constantly questioned. I
Yes.
constantly have to defend it and justify it and explain it. Nobody has ever asked or explained or justified why they had children
Yeah.
or why they want children.
Yeah. So it's
And they don't have to. Nobody asks.
yeah, there's not the the default setting seems to be children.
And
and
it's so bad.
it's not where we started. And in my research for this episode, it didn't make it into the show notes and things
yes,
like
tell
that,
me
but it comes from post World War II. So like pre World War II, it wasn't, I mean, people would say it and think, but there wasn't this like pressure in there, this like demanding and questioning of like your choice. Like, and I think that is a post-war result is, we had a huge loss of population.
Yeah.
War takes out a lot of population. You need a population, in terms of like economic growth, like you need people in the workforce. You need to, how do you stimulate the economy, blah, blah, blah. Kids stimulate the economy, let me tell you.
It
And
is
so, like,
stimulated enough. Let's slow down.
so I think it comes from that. And we've just gotten into the cycle of the default is you're, of course, supposed to have kids. You're supposed to have, that's where the nuclear family came from, right? Post-World War II, pre-Cold War. So I think we're starting to see a little bit of the shift.
Yeah.
But it takes time. And it
Yes.
takes us who have made that choice unfortunately having conversations. Because how do you do that? Well, you have to reduce the stigma.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
which leads perfectly into our next little portion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I feel like if you want to have children, you should have to justify why. Like and I think this is super valid. Like there's so many kids out there that were just accidentally had. And like
Did you read my show notes? Did you read down below what I
Oh,
said?
no.
No, I
didn't.
think it's funny because you jump ahead to something that I point out of like, I used to joke that I'm really upset that people can accidentally make a baby and I can't accidentally make a pizza.
And it's true. Like I get it. Society, it's bullshit. It's what it is. It should not be the default that you're going to bring another human being into this world unless you can justify why you want to do that and how you have the means to do that. All right. Let's get into how we talk to people about this
Yes.
without ranting about it. Come listen to us. Come talk to me. We can rant about it. But when you are talking to the in-laws, your grandma,
The
that
coworkers.
nosy woman at the supermarket. First, if you don't feel like explaining, don't explain.
Yeah.
Your choice is what you choose to do. But if, like us, you find yourself in a situation where you'd like the opportunity to explain to someone curious about it, then it could be a good opportunity to help decrease that stigma that we were talking about around being child-free and having that child-free life. There are various ways to talk about your choice, like being direct and honest. It's a personal choice, and we've decided parenthood isn't right for us or isn't right for me. We've chosen a path in life that just doesn't include children.
Yeah. There's my favorite, the humorous deflection. We can say we're enjoying the perks of a child-free lifestyle, like uninterrupted sleep.
Mm-hmm.
We're working on our titles of best aunt, uncle instead.
Yes.
Like you can make it a little more lighthearted.
Yeah. You can also try to shift the focus. I am really focused on careers, passions, hobbies right now. I'm enjoying the freedom of travel and exploring without the responsibilities of parenthood.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
And
lots of ways to do it,
If you have other ways that you would like to share, please
Yes.
do so. Because we're always looking for ways. Because I think, and we get into this a little bit, is, it's situational dependent.
Yeah.
And so you have to have enough read on the situation to know what tack to take.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get a little personal, even though I feel like we've been pretty personal up until this point. So I don't know if you know this, but as women, we are taught that having children is just what we do.
It's what we're made for.
It's what we're made for. I'm curious, did you have that doll when you were a kid that you could like feed it the bottle, it would eat, cry, and it would also like pee and like make a mess in a diaper? Okay, Amber's looking at me like I'm crazy.
Ew. No.
So it's a real thing. We should Google it so you
Gross.
can see. So apparently that was like the thing in our childhood, and it was supposed to be fun for us to like take care of that. Like talk about grooming. Like
Right?
don't come at me with drag queens. That shit's grooming.
Yeah.
We
Here's
as
a
like,
doll in your playhouse with the kitchen.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Take your baby and go into the kitchen. What?
Yep. So a lot of little girls are made to believe that our value lies in our ability to take care of others.
It's just so problematic.
It's just so problematic.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
I don't love it. It's funny. I also mentioned dolls in one of my answers.
Apparently
below.
dolls are very triggering for us.
They are so triggering. It's gender norms. It's
Societal, yep. There's a lot of things.
there's a lot to unpack. This could be like an entire
3 month of yeah. There's a lot to unpack.
Okay. We'll just leave that there.
We'll put that on the shelf. We'll unpack it later.
We'll deal with that later. Okay. So Sid.
Yeah.
How do you usually respond to these inquiries about children?
So I use humor a lot.
Shocker.
Yeah. And it's situational dependent. Like
Yeah.
I can read the situation. Like for example, if it's like a social gathering, like a work Christmas party or a friend's baby shower, I would definitely use humor in those settings. I don't want to detract from the festivities, the environment. Like it can be a very heavy topic, and so I tend to lean towards humor to kind of make sure that everybody can like laugh about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I still use this one, and for a long time we in that setting when they'd be like, oh, like, are you guys having kids? My response is always, Shelby and I keep trying, but nothing's happening. And people would usually laugh like, haha, because lesbian couple.
Right. Yes.
But if I'm really truly honest, like if in that setting with those people and the complexity of not wanting kids and all of that, like honestly, I'm never getting to the food.
Yeah.
Like
You could be there
I
forever.
will be trapped forever.
Yeah. Those can end up being very lengthy conversations that
Yeah.
you just don't want to get into.
Yeah. I mean,
So yeah, that humorous deflection and like, okay, let's go eat.
yeah. I'm like,
Can be
okay,
nice.
pigs in a blanket sound really great. Okay, Amber. So how do you usually respond to this lovely inquiry?
So I know we joked about this before the episode started. But luckily, this isn't something I get a lot. I have been single for most of my adult life, still am. And people tend not to ask you when you're having children if you aren't married as a straight woman.
Ah,
Yes.
so you've found the key to unlocking this particular
I did.
issue.
Because of course, like being married to a man is the only situation in which one can have children.
Of course, because there's not modern technologies now.
Yeah. But on the rare occasions that I get the question, I mean, I usually just respond with a very simple, I'm not having children. Never wanted them.
You're just like I think we should get you a tattoo that just says spinster. Or do like a funny like.
I mean, my entire goal is to be the type of woman that would have been burned at the stake in the 1600s. Educated, independent.
Got your own money.
Got my own money, got my own house. A little mysterious, a little bit weird.
Just describe Stevie Nicks.
Love it. I am all about that life.
I love it. Okay, so if you're comfortable, I put this in here. Will you share the reasons that you've decided not to have children, or that you've decided to be child free? I'll put it that way.
Sure. I mean, I feel like I said this during our allyship episode. It was never a decision I made. I have never in my entire life, in my memory, never wanted children. Like, it's never been a thing that I was like, I sat down and thought about and was like, I don't want children. That's just how I grew up.
Your default setting is
No.
no.
It's true. And I think it's really interesting because people ask me all the time, like, I mean, not all the time, but I've had conversations with friends and family and people about why I don't want children. And I'm like, I don't know. I just never have. It was just never part of my plan. I wasn't that little girl playing with her doll in the play kitchen and keeping house. Like, that wasn't how I played pretend when I was a kid. I had, like, I don't even know if I had any dolls to play with. Like, I had, like, the fancy, like, porcelain dolls up on their little shelf, and you look at them.
Yeah.
And I had, like, one American Girl doll. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, I dress it up. Like, I like to dress things up. I had Barbies. I'd dress them up and do little fashion shows. But yeah, like, it's just not, I don't know. It just wasn't a thing. Like, when I, thought about it as I became an adult and were getting these questions and was thinking about it, like, motherhood just never seemed appealing. It just, I don't know.
You're one of the many that are like, I simply do not want to.
I just don't want to. I think I'm too selfish for it. I work hard for my money and my things, and I don't want to have to give things up for children. I want what I want, and they're my things. I don't share. They touch everything.
You'll be happy to know that Amber is, in fact, not an only child.
I'm not. I have a whole plethora of siblings.
You would
in varying
think from
forms.
that statement of I do not share that she grew up as an only child. She is not.
I don't know. I don't think I'd be good at it, I don't know. I don't see why I should or would bring a child who has no say in being born or the childhood that they have
Yeah.
into the world if it's not something I absolutely wholeheartedly want with my entire being.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the level. That's the bar for having children.
Yeah.
Or it should be.
Or it should be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think,
Yeah.
I mean, not that I have to say good job or like your feelings are valid on that.
Yes, please
No.
tell me how valid I am.
Yeah, right.
I need that.
I
And
think
children don't tell you that.
that is also true. Because I do think that there's a lot of different, as we alluded to, there's a lot of different reasons people choose not to have children.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, it's a little bit more of a complex decision. There isn't just like there isn't just one thing that is like the root of that decision. I didn't grow up, or I can't consciously remember thinking like I don't want kids, but I always knew like But I think like for me there's so many of the other factors that play in. The financial, you know, climate change, like there's a lot of different things that play into the decision for me. And wholeheartedly, I have experienced in my life times where I have desperately wanted to want children, but not been able to get to that place. Like my head and my heart don't always align because I'm a very like logical person, and I can't fathom the process that it would take for us, because I am married, in case you didn't know that,
To a woman.
the process in which it would take for us to have a child. And
I mean, yeah.
I have wholeheartedly known that like I am a lesbian, so like knowing like those things don't align.
It is more difficult.
It is tremendously more difficult.
Depending on your friend circle and like how
Yeah.
you each feel about it, it doesn't have to be that difficult.
And yeah, well, that's true. That's a very old school way of doing it.
You could be very direct about it.
It's true. You can. And I've reflected a lot on the question like throughout my life.
Yeah.
And I really do. I envy heterosexual couples in a lot of ways because there's this thing that they can do where they can be like, we're going to leave it up to fate. Like they can have a date night and say like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Or like, I'm just going to go off my birth control and like have these things happen. Like, or I think like they can use that a little bit because they're unsure. They haven't fully like processed what that might be. Like maybe they grew up thinking like, I do want a family. Like I loved having siblings. I want to give that, like, but they've never consciously like.
And then they get out into the world and they're like, oh no.
Yeah. And so like, yeah.
Which-
I think it feels really accurate for like gay and lesbian couples to feel a little bit envious of like,
Yeah.
you can just decide or like
It can just happen.
it can just happen, and then you can kind of be like, oh, I have wanted this. I didn't know I wanted it until it happened to me, because there are scenarios in which that is true. Like,
Yes.
but I don't know that maybe having a baby and a child is one of those ones that you should have. But I do think that we don't have the luxury of leaving it up to fate, the gods, the universe, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
We
You
don't get
have to
that.
decide.
And I think, honestly, those of us who have chosen not to have children think about having children a lot more than those who do have them. Like, I think that that's more of a constant in our lives because we are constantly asked about it, but we're also, because it is in our default setting, we are like, should I have children? Should I want to have children? Like,
Yeah.
we question it a lot more, I think.
Yeah. And as a straight woman who occasionally sleeps with men, like I have to think about it because I'm like,
We're still on the train that if Amber could just be a lesbian, it would be so much easier.
it would be so much easier. I wouldn't have to worry about birth control.
And this is how we know that sexuality isn't a choice.
It is not a choice. I would not choose this.
Okay, we
Sorry.
digress.
But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was saying before. Like, or goes along with what I was saying before of where like people who do have children should be the ones thinking about it more.
Yeah. And I would say, I think there's a lot of people, I think it's generational.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of people, millennials and the like I know a lot of my friends have definitely thought about it way more. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing for
Yeah.
us to be considering.
And for
I
the
do
children that are being born.
I do think that's one of the reasons we get blamed for not having enough is because we've all considered it. We've
Yeah.
all thought about it. It wasn't just the
It's
next
not the
step.
default.
It wasn't the default. Yeah. And like, I understand that foregoing motherhood, I'll never get like certain experiences of like making a child or making a tiny human out of just like pure love for my wife. Like we can't make a love child. Like,
That would be something.
and like I also understand and recognize like I will never get to experience like them seeing the world for the first time, or like that certain type of love, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like I totally own that choice.
Yeah.
And it's just really interesting to me, this like shift of like blaming people for not having kids. But I think the whole like moving forward, I think we're doing a good job. I think our generation and the generation after us, and I think a lot of people are doing a good job of considering it. And I'm not saying that everybody prior to us didn't consider it. I
No.
think that it's
But it
just-
wasn't the norm.
it wasn't the norm. And I think that moving in this direction of really considering what we're doing with kids, because like you said, you should want to bring something into the world with your whole being. They have no choice in the matter.
They don't.
And, you know, that's how you get generational trauma.
Yes.
And it's why so many of us are in therapy.
Yeah. Like I can't speak for my mother. I think she was part of that generation where it was just expected. You just had to do it.
Yeah.
Like she was part of that generation where to leave your father's house, you had to get married.
Yeah.
Or I guess go to college, but you go to college to get married. So like the end result is you're married and then you have to have a child.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, I know she loves us. I don't think she would take anything back, but I don't know if she would make that choice. Like
Yeah.
if she was at where we are now and was presented with options, I don't know if she would.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that she particularly enjoyed us when we were young.
Yeah.
Which, like, understandable, we were terrors. But, like, she loves us as adults.
Yeah.
We
And it
enjoy
takes a
each other
lot to
now.
get people to the adult stage.
Right? And I think, yeah. And I think it's normal for, like you said, you know, to experience those feelings of, okay, I know I'm not having children. I know I'm missing out on those experiences. And I think that's very normal for child-free people. I don't think that means our choice is invalid or that we're wrong
No,
to make that choice. I think it's,
I think we acknowledge like we're missing out on these things, but I wouldn't swap the things that I am doing. Like I
Yeah.
still love the choices that I am making and the experiences I'm having. I just also know that I'm missing out on these other things. And I
Yeah.
think it's just one of those things like when this comes up in casual conversation, why it's so hard to have the conversation, because it is a complex topic.
It
and
is.
when somebody just throws out offhandedly, like, why don't you want kids? It's like, ma'am, how much time do you have?
it's a deeply personal,
And now you can have
decision.
them go listen to this episode.
yeah, just
Just
Send
have
them
them
here.
Yeah. Where you're like,
we'll explain it.
do you have 45 minutes to talk about our Lord and Savior? No.
Child-free life.
Child-free life. Like, I think that's why it's such a hard topic, is because, like, how do you explain to somebody, like,
Yeah.
my entire thought process, my entire adult life, I have considered, like, do I want them? Do I not want them? What choices, like, how would I have, like, all of those things. And how do you condense that into, like, a simple sentence of, like,
Yeah.
I've just made other choices.
And I won't broaden it to people. I will say the older generations tend not to understand when you say, I have never wanted them.
They're like, what?
I don't understand. What? Of course you wanted them. You were a little girl. I'm like, yes, I would have. I didn't play with my dolls.
I put them on a shelf.
They were up
and
on a
you
shelf.
can't do that with a child. You can't just stick it on a shelf.
I played school with my stuffed animals. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
And that's
The writing was on the wall.
I played school with my stuffed animals. I taught them. I didn't want
And
them.
then I sent them home.
They rode the bus at the end of the day.
Like, I don't think anyone was surprised when I said, my family, when I said I didn't want children.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's definitely a tricky conversation to have. And I think when given an opportunity and enough time and enough space, you can explain it. But I know that it can be really difficult. And also, if you just don't want to, if you're like, I'm tired of having this conversation on repeat, then don't.
Yeah.
And just say, that's not a topic of conversation I'm going to go into. Like, I think that can just simply be the answer.
Yeah.
Not that this.
And if it's not, just walk away.
Yeah.
Because that will get your point across.
Yeah. Remember, no is a complete sentence.
It is. And we are slowly teaching everyone that no is a complete sentence.
Everyone. So, not that we gave you a clear way to respond to the question. I think we outlined its challenges, its difficulties, and gave you maybe some options for having an answer to that question. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to answer it, don't answer it. Just walk away. If you have decided to live a child-free lifestyle, good for you. And if you have decided to have a child or multiple children, good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're incredible people.
Yeah. Phew. That's a lot of work.
Superheroes even. So, good job. That's what we have to say on that.
Good job for everybody.
Good job for everybody. We're giving out participation trophies. Like the good millennials we are.
Yeah.
You
With
get a
avocado toast.
You get a trophy and avocado toast.
You get an avocado. You get an avocado.
You have to bake your own bread because let's be serious. We're all doing that now. We're going to leave you with New Hampshire state motto. Live free or die, people.